Good afternoon. Up now, we have How Toy Companies Have Transformed from TV to Digital with Denis Crushell of Precise TV. Denis?
Thank you, Anne. Great, speaker's working. Hi, everyone. Welcome to day one of Toy Fair. How's your Toy Fair going so far? Good day? You can do better than that, come on. Yeah, woo! What's not to enjoy? We're working over the weekend. It's great fun. Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about how toy companies have transformed from TV to digital. And you're really in for a great session today. You're very lucky with the amazing panelists that you have here, who I'll introduce in a second. And I think it's something that, putting together this talk, I think we're very lucky to have Emily from Google, thinking about the biggest platform now on TV devices is actually YouTube. And then we also have Phyllis from Powerphyl Media, who's worked in the media industry for a few years and has great experience in this space, seeing all the different trends. And then Sonny as well from Just Play, so top 10 Just Play toy company. With that, it'd be great to hear a little bit about yourselves.
I'll keep it brief. My name is Sunny Laurdisen. I have the pleasure of heading up marketing and brand for Just Play. We are based in Philly primarily, but I am located in Manhattan Beach, California. I have 2 children, and I never knew that I would love working in toys as much as I do, but it has really become my passion and something that I am so proud that I get to do every day, and I love that I don't go sit at a desk at a bank or something like that. So super fortunate to be in this industry, which I've now been in for over 20 years, which is crazy. Time flies when you're having fun.
Great. Welcome, Sonny. Emily?
Hi, folks. Emily Hotz. I lead our retail YouTube team for our largest customers. Based in Chicago. I am mom of 3, and my husband is a fanatic when it comes to Legos. So we are like that family who decorates with Legos.
Great. Phyllis?
Yeah, hi everyone. Phyllis Starsia. I own a small boutique agency in New York. I've been on the agency side for my entire career. So I started off at the holdcos and then went to specialty firms, and then about 7 years ago opened my own agency.
Great. Thank you, Phyllis. And maybe just hold in the microphone a little bit more next time. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And starting off, Phyllis, let's start with you on the end then. How has the shift from TV to digital impacted the overall marketing strategies for toy companies that you've seen?
Very difficult now. It's not as easy as putting a 30-second spot up on TV and watching your sales, dovetail up. I said now it's really strategically looking at the brands you have and really trying to choose which ones you need the investment in. I said, we work with portfolio brands. We just, Lego is Lego. Our clients have many different brands that they're trying to achieve different things with. So we really try to work with them, figuring out the media mix. Not all the time do we use TV anymore, but we do use it. It is still effective in a media mix, but we need to really figure that out with our clients.
Great. Sonny, a point of view on that in terms of the transition that toy companies have made from TV to digital?
Yeah, I would echo the sentiment that I miss the good old days of the 3X lift immediately after you started running TV. It was pretty magical. And if you didn't see that lift, you'd stop running TV and stop spending because you knew you were going to be paying markdowns later. We don't get that same instant feedback anymore, so we have to do a lot more testing and be a lot more thoughtful in how we reach our customers. I mean, even looking around right now, people are checking their phones, everyone's distracted, everyone's on digital devices. It's so hard to keep people's attention, even for the few minutes that we're all sitting here together. So we have to be really thoughtful about how we capture somebody's eye so that they want to watch our content. It's not a matter of just assuming everyone's going to see it and that they're going to view through it, because they have the opportunity to click through. They have the opportunity to cancel out your ads and never see them again. So we really have to think differently about entertaining kids and entertaining even parents and grandparents so that they want to watch your content, they want to watch your spot, and then hopefully click through and drive to purchase.
Great.
So with Gen Z and younger having grown up with YouTube, what we're actually, if I can broaden the question a bit,
yes,
we're seeing the platform at the YouTube platform as core to how our younger consumers and their families not only watch content, but like experience your brand and your products. And so what we're seeing from some of our partners is they are creating for the platform. So creating new content to live on that platform. And so I think that's a really interesting, it's more than just a marketing channel. It is like how they experience you. Now we see this coming to life just a few ways. Really a shift from broadcast to engagement. And so if you look at the types of content being produced, the types of things going viral, it is very interactive, whether it's actually shoppable or more activity-based interactivity. I see a shift from linear to non-linear, so being able to take creative and cut it up into different parts and mash it together. It no longer has to be one full arc. And the final piece would be from longer form to a diversity of forms. So the proliferation of creative is just incredible right now. So from 6-second vertical to 5-minute long ads horizontal. When you consider that we have brands who have subscribers in the 19 to 20 million mark, they've essentially created a TV channel just for them, and then their programming follows.
Okay, and actually that's a great point about creative for the platform, and the toy industry was really good at like TVCs over the years. How have you found that change, Sunny, from like TVC to YouTube or other platforms?
We're creating 1,000 times more content today
Really?
than we've ever created in the past, because it's not one TVC that you blast out to every platform. We're partnering with influencers and creators in a different way. Nicole, who's sitting in the audience, we just worked with on a campaign, and really just saw the opportunity to align with her spirit and her brand and the things that she is known for, and then to do a really great partnership to get some great content in front of our audience. But we are creating more content. We're working with others who are amazing at creating content to leverage their talent and their voice. So it's a totally different world that we live in today. We spend so much time trying to figure out the right content for each brand and each audience so that we can break through the clutter.
Okay. How do you manage that when you work with a lot of partners in terms of like, do you need to give a bit more editorial freedom to those like influencers or creators, or how do you navigate that?
Do I own the brand or does Disney own the brand? It's very different when you're talking about licensed brands versus your own. We can give people a little bit more creative freedom, but we do a lot of licensed business, and there we have to really tiptoe around their brand DNA and their brand values, and we have to, number one, make sure that the influencers align with their brand values, and then that their content will pass the Disney
checks
filters and checks and balances. But we're trying to align with people who already naturally align with the message that we're trying to get in the marketplace, so that it comes across as organic. Because the other thing about today is kids see right through the BS, and if you are trying to sell them something through somebody who doesn't like your product, they know it immediately, and they will not engage with you.
Yeah. Phyllis, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely creating content for the platform you're running on, but that's takes a long time. There's a lot that's behind things like that.
Yeah.
And I believe the clients we've worked with in the past couple of years, they've really gotten very good at that, because we were using TVCs on every platform, and it just wasn't working. But that's all we knew at that time. So now they've gotten very good at making content for the platform, for the brand.
Yeah. I think you mentioned there was was it Moose you were working with years ago, who was very early to YouTube?
Oh, they were Shopkins, very early. They said they found that almost by mistake. They put these little shorts up, and all of a sudden it took off. And really, to his credit, Paul Solomon, when I first met him in 2014, and they were opening the US, he said to me, YouTube. We should be on YouTube. Why aren't we on YouTube? Like, we were doing all their digital business. And I was like, yes. And we had a great partnership with Google. We worked so closely with them, and they brought Moose to where, they are now. They really did. Google worked very closely with them.
I love to hear that. Thank you. I actually think this is one of those areas where the toy space is ahead of some of the other categories out there. So in the realm of 70, 80, 90% of views on toy content is from the organic channel. And so it really, like, when you get into those 10, 20 million subscriber bases, again, they are that channel. Point of reference, for our shoe categories, it's like 20% of views start on the organic channel.
Yeah. And actually, Emily, I was looking up this stat before today about YouTube. I'll ask this question, but just like a statement beforehand. I saw that, so the Nielsen Gauge report, that CTV is now 42.6% of viewership for 2+ in the US, and that is 2x broadcaster cable. And YouTube is 25% of the overall reach of CTV. Netflix and Disney second and third. Like, how did YouTube do that?
If I was going to write a senior thesis, like, this would be what I wrote it on, but I'll give you the quick synopsis. I think there's a few tech trends or more tech-based things that are fueling it. So one, YouTube did a really good job scaling across mobile, connected TV. And so if you look at our viewership, it's across all devices, and that's fueling the growth. Secondarily, we've really leaned into long-form content, but over the past 2 years, our shorts, there are 70 billion daily views on shorts, which is hard to even wrap your mind around. So our growth is being fueled by both the screens they're on and the length of content. I think there's something interesting with how our viewers are engaging, and I think that, like, real answer of how viewership has gotten so big is the trust and authenticity of our creators. The spirit of fandom. 80% of folks say they're a fan of something and they come to YouTube at least once a week to engage in that fandom. And so there's a few interesting things that we see coming out of that. First is everyone has the thing they like, and then there's all the things around the thing. And so if it's arts and crafts, suddenly they explore arts and crafts materials and class projects. So it essentially expands the viewership. The other interesting trend here is the way fandoms are now creating self-expression. So the Met Gala had 14 million views. There were 550 million views on people reacting to the Met Gala, and a whole chunk of that were people, like, dressing their Barbies in Met Gala outfits. And so you see this fandom's driving deeper engagement and broader engagement, which I think is a really, you pair that with the actual growth stats, I think that's the perfect storm.
Yeah. Phyllis, and I know that you have, like, gaming experience as well as toy experience. What does fandom mean to you as Emily talks about it?
You know, when we think about fandom, the other side of the agency, we work with video games. So we worked with, back to the early 2000s, they were very early to the market with digital. And fandom to them, a lot of times starts with their family, with their parents. Parents bring what they like and they introduce their children to that. And so it's really trying to capture the whole family in what they like most. And, that's how we try to really look at it.
Yeah. What about gaming for you, Sonny? Is that, like, an area as a toy company you think about as well?
We think about it through a lot of lenses. One is what's trendy within the gaming space, because a lot of times it speaks to the types of toys that kids would be interested in and the other types of trends that they're following. So there's a lot to be gleaned from gaming because of the engagement levels in that space. We're also certainly looking at it as an advertising platform and as well as content creation. I mean, we know that children are spending a ton of time on Roblox. My own household is a really good case study for that.
Yeah.
If they could spend 24 hours in the game, they would. Yeah. It's like I'll take away your Roblox is the only threat that works as parents to try to get them to listen to us. So it's just such a passionate space for kids, and I think it kind of speaks to everything you were saying about the success of Google. It feels like such organic connections within that space for kids, and they feel like they control this world. And I think it all comes down to authenticity and things that they care about, because You go on to YouTube and you find people that feel like you and you connect with them. Even though you don't know them, you feel like you know them because you see them through a lens that's not so polished. It's not so perfect. And I think kids especially crave that because like they know life's not perfect. They know it's a little messy. And so they're in gaming worlds and on YouTubers' channels because they want to experience real life authenticity.
Okay. And do you have any advice for people in the room in terms of that transition from like TV and moving more into digital and YouTube, of like any recommendations for them or advice?
I mean, we can talk a lot about things not to do as well as things to do. I mean, I think you learn a lot from the mistakes as well. So I'm happy to share those privately. But I think, again, it's authentically, how are you going to talk to this generation of kids? They want to hear from brands and products in a way that's real. They don't buy the crap. They just don't, right? That's not the world they live in. And so as marketers, as content creators, as toy makers, we need to look at like, if I'm the kid and I'm watching this, am I buying this? Am I believing it? Does it feel real to me? Because if it doesn't feel real, then move on.
Yeah.
If it's not the right, like even if it's the biggest viewer in the world and the biggest YouTuber in the world and they want to work with you, if it's not authentic to your brand, it's not going to connect with your audience. And you've probably just spent a ton of money to do something that's a waste.
Okay. And I think you've talked about, actually, Sonny, before we cut up, before this talk, you were talking about working with micro-influencers, but now looking at more long-term partnerships and stuff with influencers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's people who create great content. Again, I'll say Nicole makes really fun content. She's super engaging. So we find somebody like that, and we want to double down. So what else do you like here, Nicole, that we can partner with you on? So like when we walk somebody through our booth, you can see what they like and what they're excited about, and that's where we want to tap into their energy because we want to bring that energy and authenticity to their crowd. So we are absolutely like kind of moving away from this broad gifting model, which we still do, but it's really more about connecting one-on-one and finding those partners that you can create a long-term relationship with who can represent your brand. Like, people unfortunately don't want to hear from me. I'm not that exciting. I don't make great content, and I know that, but I can find people who make great content, and I can find people who are excited about our brands because we've got really great toys, and they're fun, and people want to hear the story, but they want to hear the story through somebody that they connect with.
Yeah, and actually, at Precise TV, I know that we've done a lot of like shorts content, and it's kind of this influencer content works well a lot of the time with the advertising there. Have you seen that as well, Emily, where you talked about shorts being really big now?
So an interesting trend, actually two interesting trends emerging here. Shorts is a terrific vehicle, and what we're seeing though is Shorts is driving engagement with longer form. So Shorts is like sparking that moment of discovery, and north of 60% of folks on YouTube who watch Shorts also then go to watch the long. So think about how you might tease them with a short or hook them with a short. So that, I think that's one really important element of it. Part two there, short form to long form. Maybe that's all I have for now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Phyllis, anything else to add on this discussion?
Gaming always used their shorter form content to get to their longer form trailers. So we've been working with that model for many, many years.
Yeah.
You know, we would take a 15 or a 30, and even sometimes, you know, up to a 60, and then drive to the 2-minute, 5-minute piece. Good content is good content. People will watch good content, doesn't matter. Oh, everyone always says, how long should my piece be? As good, you know, as long as it's engaging and someone will watch it. That's how long.
And Phyllis, I think a lot of toy companies like see the success of, I'm looking right now like at Peppa Pig as an example, like content being king and investing in content and entertainment versus just advertising or TVCs. Like, have you seen that be successful for people, like trying to move more into entertainment with their toys?
I believe that's where we need to be. And I think that's because YouTube is so accessible. It's accessible, like, you know, it started on tablets, it started on computers, and then they moved. You know, they moved and you could see YouTube anywhere you were. So it made it so easy to watch content.
Yeah.
Where, you know, television, you had to be in your living room. It was more difficult. It was almost like appointment. YouTube made it so easy for kids to watch content.
Yeah. what do you think about, like, I guess that conversation around storytelling and your brands being more, storytelling and entertainment? Have you found that similar, Sonny?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. I think in some cases you have to earn the right to do longer form content for your brand. Like if you haven't created a backstory, if you haven't really engaged people in the premise, then you don't deserve to put long form content out there. You haven't kind of earned the right to demand that much of people's time. So I actually think it's really important to first start with, have I really driven the engagement needed? And obviously it's different when it starts with a TV show. It starts with long form. Like if you have a great story that needs to be told and you think that that's going to spark toys, awesome. But I think a lot of us, especially in this space where everyone's on YouTube, we got to do YouTube content. What's our YouTube series strategy? It's like sometimes I think we rush too fast into it, and we should start with influencer content and shorts and other things that are going to drive that engagement, and then you've earned the right to keep kids in your content for longer. Yeah.
Do you think there's any good examples of brands that have done it, whether that be your own or others?
All of our brands deserve it at this point in time. I'm just kidding. I think. I would even say, I think Barbie's a really good example today of, how they've done a lot more longer form series content and they've refreshed it and they do a really good job of engaging their fan base in really different ways across different platforms. But they obviously didn't start that way. And I don't think they were the first in digital, even though they had a brand that, certainly warranted being in that space. So I think we're looking at content frequently in terms of, again, where we belong and how we can be authentic in that space. But I think you have to earn people's time.
Yeah. Okay. And I was going to say as well, back to YouTube and advertising on YouTube. Can you share any specific examples of successful campaigns you've seen that have helped, like your company or clients that you help achieve their marketing goals?
For sure. We have a couple examples happy to share. I actually think my favorite example is looking at YouTubers who've created toy companies of their own. I think Mark Rober is a great example. 60 million subscribers, and he created Crunch Labs. What's interesting is if you watch his channel, he used to do a lot of brand integrations where he would promote other toys. And it is now exclusively, he talks about his own products because he understands the impact that has. So I just look to him or someone like Ryan Trahan with the Joyride candy as maybe an aspirational direction. Of course, like in a tried and true marketing perspective, I have a few great examples. Couple, I think it was in Lego. If you think about running mass reach, they bought parenting segments and were able to hit their target audience reliably at the frequency, and it ended up this campaign drove almost 500% lift in searches for that product. So if you think about running a campaign, you want your reach, but it also drives brand searches, that's a nice proxy. And then mini brands did something interesting where as they have content, they wanted more subscribers on their channel. Instead of just running their ads to maximize for reach, they were like, we want to maximize for engagement. And they saw in a 2-week period, 250,000 new subscribers. So, depending on your goals, I think there's terrific examples. But being crisp about what your goal is for the campaign and then tailoring your objectives to that.
Yeah. Phyllis, anything to add on that?
Yeah, we worked with Moose again with one of their brand launches, Kindy Kids. And first was the shorts that they were coming out with, and then the product was going to follow. So we were ahead and we worked very closely with your team in choosing the content. And, we had almost like a decision tree on how we were showing the content. And we were looking at engagement. And as, if people watched X percentage of the piece, then we would show them something else, and we were getting them into the funnel. But if they didn't watch it, we'd show it again, and if they opted out twice, we took them out of, looking at content. So it was really interesting, and Moose saw very good engagement and grew that channel pretty quickly based on working that closely.
Okay. And actually we kind of touched on, Emily touched on kind of measurement, I guess, or what to measure for success. What's your thoughts, Phyllis, on what should brands look out for to measure in the digital space?
View completion rate and engagement.
Okay.
I mean, because we cannot track sales directly because we're going to retailers, so we can't tell if that's done. But if you see that the content, and we have very high standards that we look at for engagement.
Yeah.
And we look at almost 70%. We want someone to be engaged that much into the content.
Yeah. Sonny, would it be the same for you?
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And one other thing in terms of like in the space we're operating, kids and family, toy companies, entertainment companies, like balancing the need for engaging content, but also with compliance and privacy. How do you think that brands do that, and advice for brands doing that, Sonny?
I mean, I think the rules are probably going to continue evolving. I mean, we were in the wild, wild west not that long ago where you could kind of do anything. I mean, I think Ryan is a really good example of like the lines were so blurred for the audience in terms of what was promotion, what was just him playing, and it worked really well for a very long time. And they sold a lot of product, but I think it definitely was a blurry line when it came to who the audience was and what they knew was marketing to them versus I want to play like Ryan. So I think it was like a time and a place where you had this kid that everybody wanted to be because he got every cool toy that existed. And by the way, his parents wanted to play with him all the time. I don't know about any of you other parents, but if I said yes every time my kids wanted to play with me, I would be a freaking hero. I'm working on it. But I think as we look ahead, like it's going to continue to evolve. As a company, I think we're pretty conservative about the approach that we take, but I still think, number one, if your content's not entertaining first or it's not eye-catching first, you've already lost them, right? So you have to be entertaining while still clearly following the rules and regulations around COPA compliance and marketing to kids and all those other fun things. It's getting trickier and trickier across all the different platforms. I think that again, who knows in the world we live in today, like where the regulations go, different yesterday than tomorrow. But I think, back to the question about how we navigate, I think we have to be really, really careful. Like our job, we're not trying to trick kids. We're trying to engage with them and create hopefully a long-term relationship with them, and we hope that results in the sale of toys. Yeah. But we're not trying to trick anyone.
Okay. Phyllis, anything to add to that?
No, I think the rules were pretty strict when it was all television. And we finally caught up in the digital space because everything that was a rule on TV is now a rule in digital. So the rules were there, they just caught up.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll open up to the audience after this next question. So think about your question in the audience. And I think, Anne, you're going to have a roaming mic. Great. So kind of thinking about the future and future trends, what do you see in digital marketing, especially with like emerging technologies and opportunity around that? Maybe from a toy company perspective first.
I mean, I do think AI will have a really big impact on content creation in the very near future. I have a friend who's working in the AI space and has some incredible tools that make it much, much cheaper and faster to develop pretty good content. So I think that'll be an amazing tool for us. I'm a huge believer in like testing content, learning, pivoting, and I think we get a lot of forgiveness from kids. Like if you try once and it's not great and you listen to their feedback, they'll give you another shot. If, again, you're really trying to be authentic and listen to what your audience is saying, I think AI will allow us to do more of that and faster. So we'll really be able to react to how the audience perceives our content and whether or not we're driving the engagement rates we want to drive and whether people are watching it. So I think it's a little bit scary, but it's also very exciting because I think it'll make us all a lot smarter.
Do you have any recommendations for toy companies embracing AI, like certain parts of the business more than others, or?
I mean,
could
I
say
think
no.
I mean, I think it's really dependent on how conservative your company is and whether they want you playing with these tools, because there are a lot of questions around privacy and whether they own your ideas and what gets shared outside of your private chat with ChatGPT. But there's a lot of value to it. It's a really quick way to be like, is that the best way to say that? Or I'm having a hard time imagining this, but I bet ChatGPT could show me. It's incredible what you can get back. If you haven't played with the tools, you absolutely should, just to know what's out there, if nothing else.
I think something as well, actually, for businesses. I saw a study recently that like 70 to 80% of employees are like using their own personal accounts for ChatGPT and Gemini and everything. And it's like, oh, it's a lot of like maybe company information. Like we've started using like Gemini, actually, Emily, in our business. And it's great. Over to you, Emily. Anything else to add?
So we see two tactical and more immediate ways we can apply AI that I think will just continue into the future. And then I have one maybe slightly more expansive thought. So creative ideation or creative variations. I understand there's around replacing talent with AI is a hot topic. That's not what I'm talking about. What we see a lot of brands using is to put this product in a bunch of different contexts. So I don't know, here's the shovels on a beach, here's the shovels in a sandbox, here they are in the bathtub or something. And so what used to take teams of people, time and iterations to generate, like we can now take an image and put it in countless contexts. We also see auto dubbing and translation, like what's happened in the past, I think even 12 months there is staggering. And so I think all of a sudden global content will become way more global because it can be in any language. Where I think it is exciting if we think about generative AI is taking imagination ideas and like really bringing them to life. So what does a crocheted elephant marching through a parade look like? And suddenly kids can see that. And so I think that is an area a little bit more loaded in terms of where does this play with other talent considerations, but I think that's exciting. And then the underpinning is in your ads. Most of the ads we're running now, at least on YouTube, are AI powered. And it's like, I no longer spend my days arguing about the targeting type. We get to focus on the objective.
Right. Phyllis, anything else? Emerging technologies, future, digital marketing?
I mean, on the agency side, we rely on our clients for what they bring to us. But, the question always was around what's next after influencers. And I think what we've seen, it's roadblocks. It's all the integration into these games now.
Yeah.
That's where kids are living. And they're not looking for new games to play. They're very happy being in the environments they're in, so making them more engaging, getting involved there, I think that's a big move that we've seen over the last 2 years.
Okay, great. Your chance to ask the panelists a question. Yes, Anne, do you have the roaming mic?
Hi, how are you? This is Jackie from General Plus. I'm the chip supplier behind all the toy. Actually, I supply the biscuit. So, like I heard from Philip talking about TV move to the digital, right? One of the things I've been working for that many years say the big difference for us is TV is one direction.
Right.
And in the new way, can the product actually know what you're talking about and again, so then you know what they sell for your performance, like audio, Bluetooth, or AI sign kind of stuff. Does anybody start to thinking and doing that? So you buy a product because you like that inference, and when you watch the next short or a long content, and I know or it actually interactive in between, and then make an even better feeling. The people sometimes call the third screen idea, right? So basically the difference between the TV and the cell phone is you actually can interact it.
I mean, we worked with Disney many years ago on their virtual worlds, and they had some jewelry and things that they would be able to tell, the children who actually were interacting with these bracelets that were interacting in the virtual world.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. Maybe the next step is you can actually be part of the response of the product to whenever they're watching.
Yep.
So this is this is not as high tech as what you're saying, but I think it's really interesting the engaging discussion around product creation that happens on YouTube or other social platforms. I draw an example from Blogilates, if anyone follows her. She's created a whole activewear line. And she will go in there and she'll be like, you guys, you love the thumb holes. So I'm bringing the thumb holes into our next iteration. And she points out then what people don't like about that last iteration. She's like, apparently we need these sweatshirts a little longer. And so what ends up getting actually manufactured and produced feels like this collaborative creation. And I think as that's powered by tech in the future, that will only get faster and better.
I see.
Any other questions? This gentleman over, or two people, yeah.
Hello. I have an animation company and we produce contents for Cocomelon, Hot Wheels, Barbie, a lot of different brands. And how do you choose the companies to work with? Or how is the process maybe for making some alliance or something like that?
I mean, it really comes down to, I think, creative, like for me, it's three things. Creative alignment, what does their timing look like, and what is their cost? And I think, again, back to this, we have to create more content than ever. And so I think the old model of we're going to sign a year-long deal and we're going to do 800 minutes of content at X dollars per minute is just honestly not something I'm looking for anymore in my content partnerships. I'm looking for somebody who is like, we can test something in 6 weeks, and then if it works, we're going to do more of it, and if it doesn't, we're going to pivot and we're going to do something else. So I think a lot of it comes down to flexibility in the partnership and making sure that we can do things fast together. We can't afford to sit and develop something for 18 or 24 months.
Right. We have time for one more question.
I think this is for Sunny primarily. You mentioned before your audience has to be willing to invest in long-form content. I see some toy companies, they're all in branded entertainment, series, long-form, and some, it seems like they've almost never touched it. I'm kind of curious, so that's one aspect of the decision-making, but I'm kind of curious what else factors into those decisions, like if it's just cost or if there's more than that.
I think cost is a really big part of it. I will share one. I will call it a failure for us as a company in that space. We had a pretty tight budget for a new brand we were launching. It was kind of the height of everything. Like new brand must have YouTube content. So we developed a content series. We didn't have the right budget to support that content, and so we put some stuff out there, and it was like, let's cross our fingers and hope it works. And guess what? It didn't. And so we wasted a lot of time and energy and dollars doing something that never really had a chance to be a meaningful part of our strategy. So I think a lot of it comes down to budgets and realistically, what are you going to spend to invest in that content to ensure the content is seen? Because if it's not seen and it's not engaging, then you've just blown a lot of really valuable marketing dollars. Does that answer the question?
Actually, one build on that, we do see folks using shorts to assess what's working. And then once you get a little bit of energy or engagement around something, then thinking about how to blow that out. So versus going deep and having this gorgeous, fully fleshed out content plan, wait to see what the people want more of.
Okay. 2 minutes left, so any final question? And if you're thinking about that final question, we're going to try and take a selfie at the end as well with the audience, if that works. Yes. Any final question? Or are you all ready for the selfie? No? Okay. And we're going to be over in this area afterwards if anyone wants to ask the panelists one-on-one questions. But yeah, we'll turn around now for a selfie with the audience, if that works for everyone.
That's fun.
Yes.
Thank you all so much.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.